I call this meeting of the Upshur County Commission to order. We'll begin with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Thankfully, we're not in Erie, Pennsylvania or Buffalo, New York. Somebody goes out to them, that's quite a bit of snow they've got up there. Jackie, would you please read the minutes from last week's commission meeting?
Good morning.
Good morning, Jackie.
The County Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia held their regular meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Thursday, November 13, 2014 at 9 a.m. J.C. Rafferty called the meeting to order. There were present J.C. Rafferty Commissioner, Donnie Tenney Commissioner, Troy Brady Commissioner, Kelly Cunningham County Administrator, Carrie Wallace Assistant County Administrator, and Jacqueline Bank-Walker Secretary. The meeting began with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by a pledge of allegiance. All motions passed unanimously unless otherwise stated. After reading of the minutes on motion by Donnie Tenney, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved the regular meeting minutes of November 6, 2014 as submitted. Kelly Cunningham provided a review of the 2014 Equal Employment Opportunity Plan requirements. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Donnie Tenney, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign the certification of compliance. J.C. Rafferty reviewed correspondence to the Upshur County Prosecutor, Jacob Rieger, requesting information for the 2013 financial audit. After discussion on motion by Donnie Tenney, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved and authorized the Commission to sign the correspondence. After discussion on motion by Donnie Tenney, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved Wendy Miller and Christina Smith as volunteers for the Lewis Upshur Animal Control Facility. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Donnie Tenney, the Commission approved the employment of Darlene Gregory for the position of part-time substitute library clerk for the James W. Curry Library. Effective date of employment is November 16, 2014, at the rate of $8 per hour for not more than 19.5 hours per week. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Donnie Tenney, the Commission approved the employment of Abby Jo Golden as part-time 4-H assistant for the WVU Extension Office. Effective date of employment is November 16, 2014, at the rate of $8 per hour for not more than 29.5 hours per week. J.C. Rafferty advised that agenda item number 5, employment of full-time tax deputy, will be postponed and placed on a future agenda for action. Carrie Wallace advised that no action be taken on item number 8, employment of full-time legal assistant for the prosecuting attorney's office, until after speaking with Jacob Rieger. The Commission recessed at 9:12 a.m. The Commission reconvened at 9:15 a.m. Steve Linger, E911 Communications Center Director, provided a review of the Tallmansville Radio Repeater Tower project. Mr. Linger advised that the planning of the project has progressed and is now ready for the construction phase. Kelly Cunningham expressed concerns that the cost of the project may require estimates to go out for bids if costs exceed the $15,000 threshold. Mr. Linger provided a review of the cost estimates and determined that construction will be in 2 phases and therefore meet the requirements to not necessitate a bidding process. After discussion on motion by Donnie Tenney, the Commission approved the bid estimate from Premier Construction in the amount of $2,900 for tower work, and from Bizer's Radio Service in the amount of $12,544 for radio equipment and installation. Jacob Rieger appeared before the Commission and requested to meet in executive session for West Virginia Code 6-9A-4 to discuss staffing issues. On motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Donnie Tenny, the commission entered executive session at 9:40 a.m. Present were J.C. Rafferty, Donnie Tenny, Troy Brady, Kelly Cunningham, and Jacob Reeder. The commission returned to open session at 9:43 a.m. No decisions were made in executive session. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Donnie Tenny, the commission approved the employment of Ashley Brooke Ware as full-time legal assistant for the office of the prosecuting attorney at the rate of $10.75 per hour. Effective date of employment has not yet been determined. Kelly Cunningham provided a review of adjournment of assessment appeals per West Virginia Code 11-3-24B. After discussion on motion by Donnie Tenny, seconded by Troy Brady, the commission approved the adjournment of the Board of Assessment Appeals. J.C. Rafferty reviewed the following for your information items. Number 1, correspondence from Hodgesville Public Service District announcing Terry Gould as their appointment to the Source Water Protection Committee. Number 2, correspondence from West Virginia Department of Revenue, State Tax Department regarding the preparation for Board of Review and Equalization hearings for natural resource and industrial properties. Number 3, invitation from the Family Resource Network to a poverty stimulation workshop to be held in Benedum Social Hall on the West Virginia College campus, November 18, 2014, from 6 to 9 p.m. Number 4, Upshur County Public Library newsletter, November-December 2014. 5, building permit report, October 2014. 6, agendas and/or notice of meetings as listed. 7, meeting minutes and/or financial reports as listed. Number 8, meetings as listed. 9, appointments needed or upcoming as listed. The commission approved all invoices for payment. The commission approved all vacation orders. The commission approved the following settlements as listed. The commission approved the following exonerations and/or refunds as listed. The commission approved the following request for time out of office as listed. The commission recessed at 11 a.m. J.C. Rafferty and Kelly Cunningham attended the Philanthropy West Virginia Community Foundation Open Forum at 12 p.m. The commission attended the meeting of the Upshur County Department Supervisors at 1 p.m. and the meeting of the Upshur County Policy Board at 2 p.m. The commission convened at 3:15 p.m. Debbie Thacker Wilfong, Upshur County Clerk, appeared before the commission to discuss scheduling for a fiduciary hearing. With no further business, on motion by Donnie Tenny, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the commission adjourned at 3:20 p.m.
Thank you, Jackie. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as read? If not, I would request a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second it, therefore, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. It's been a long time since I voted. The president doesn't vote unless there's a tie, or the case I break the tie. Okay, first on the agenda is now 9:15 on the dot. So that was our first appointment, only appointment today. Nancy Burgess, Lewis Upshur Animal Control Facility volunteer regarding allegations at that facility.
Well, first of all, I'm here as a citizen of Upshur County, and I'm also here as a volunteer at the shelter. And last week, through the news media, there was an article that the Lewis County Commission had met and directed a letter, I guess, to you all requesting the removal of several volunteers at the Lewis Upshur County, whatever, pound, shelter. And I have to admit, I was a bit shocked to read about it in the newspaper and not know about it prior to that without notification. I am a volunteer there. I am not one of the ones that has been allegedly charged with, something. But after giving it much thought, I really am requesting that this not be acted on immediately, that we have a cooling off period of about a week and tried to do some conflict resolution. I belong to a group called Love for Animals, and it was founded by Nicole English and Robin Keogh.
Thank you.
And there have been various people that have been in and out of this group. But basically, the support system that the volunteers provide at the shelter is enormous. And I think if you look at this list, since a lot of the volunteers have become involved, and we've worked with Jan, the shelter manager, what has been known as a kill shelter has kind of lost that descriptor, because really, with all of us working together, we have saved a lot of animals, dogs and cats alone. And every volunteer that works up there donates their own time, their own money, you know, their cars to transport animals. They work the rescue lines daily into the late hours of the night. I think I'm taking 5 dogs on Sunday. I have to talk to you about that. But I think because when you get involved in this kind of thing, things become very passionate. And it's kind of like, I'll address it, it is as volatile as the abortion rights issue. People don't really have a middle road on that issue. You know, you're like this. And I think that's somewhat true of when someone becomes very passionate about animals. I only was going to go up there as a transporter because I knew I would get sucked in. Second day, I ended up with 1 dog that was just, I threw it in the car, paid my money, threw it in the car, and took it home because I was told it was going down. So I've already been a foster failure, and you know, I see the hard work that all of these volunteers do. And I think I just want us to just kind of step back, and I'm asking that you table this and not act on it today, but allow the parties involved to have a discussion with you about all of this and with Jan. That's all I'm asking.
Have you indicated, I'm not aware that it was in the newspaper.
Oh yeah, it was in the Clarksburg Exponent.
Okay, did it indicate the reasoning behind the request, or did
Well, yes, it somewhat did. It somewhat did. It was very inflammatory, and it seemed to be coming from one of the employees of the shelter. And it was over another issue that I'm not going to go about in here today, but it was also about another passionate issue. And I think that's what kind of got things going. So I really would like to see if there can be some conflict resolution about this issue. Are the volunteers all perfect? No. Is the shelter all perfect? No. I think we would all agree to that. But I think we need to work together as a team. You know, this no-kill shelter thing, I mean, I know that there are some dogs that should be euthanized. I mean, some dogs should be euthanized. I mean, you can't, you know, Charleston has gone to a no-kill shelter and they're having a little bit of growing pains and problems because, you know, if you go totally no-kill, then there are dogs that actually are very dangerous and could cause harm. But, so I'm not advocating for that. All I'm here today is to ask you to please table whenever you're going to vote on this, don't vote on it right away, and allow the parties to come together and allow their concerns to be held.
Okay. The policy that is in dispute or is an issue is not a policy that Upshur County has in place. It is a policy, as I understand it, Lewis County has adopted. So therefore, you know, we are not directly involved in determining whether or not there should be a reconciling period or that is something that Lewis County officials involved would have to be agreeable to, not just the Upshur County Commission. you had a chance to read the letter that we received from the Lewis County Commission.
I just did read that letter. However, when I read that letter, all I can say is there are some extenuating circumstances, and that's all I'm going to be at liberty to say at this point. And I just feel, because I know we get monies from Lewis County, okay? And we are a combined shelter. I think the issue is over possibly a dog biting someone or something.
That is I think, as I understand, and from reading the correspondence and what was not, the letter itself, which is in the agenda today, indicated that the commission provided copies of social media comments that they were concerned about as supporting their statements relative to.
Well, once again, that may be true, but I think you have to think about the situation here and the feeling when you're out there working so hard every day and doing the best that you can do and actually knowing these animals the way we do. And other dogs have been euthanized, and I don't think anybody has even questioned anything. Is that true or not? Okay, well, I haven't questioned it, but a lot of people haven't questioned it. And I think this just kind of tugged at our hearts because there were some inconsistencies that we weren't sure about. And usually, and I think Jan will tell you this, when I hear stuff, I usually just go to Jan and say, Jan, what's going on here? Let me know what's going on here. But if we're together with Lewis and Upshur, how can they mandate one set of rules and we have another set?
Because they have their own area of responsibility. They view their responsibility differently, possibly in this case, than we do. They have a ordinance, or as they've stated in their letter, they've had 3 successive prosecuting attorneys who indicate that in issues where dogs have bitten individuals, that dog is considered a vicious dog, and therefore it needs to be euthanized. Without, I like to use the word without exception. We do not take that position in Upshur County.
Okay.
However, however, Lewis County is a partner, using that phrase, with Upshur County in the operation of the facility. And as such, they have an interest in ensuring that their ordinances or their policies are held in accordance, and that we, Upshur County, respect their ordinances on this particular matter, even though we do not have the same policy.
Okay. And I can understand that. I would also ask that maybe you look at the statistics of the number of dogs being brought in from Lewis County supposedly, and Lewis County, even though it is bigger geographically than Upshur, the population is not as high as Upshur County. And we've had several court cases, that by law, when there's a court case, the dogs have to be brought to the shelter, and Jan has to, they have to provide, and that is why we all work so frantically to try to get dogs out that are there, because we know we have only so many runs.
I think the concern that, at least as I understand the letter expressed, is that if you have a dog, from their perspective, I'm saying from the Lewis County perspective, if there is a dog that has bitten a human, and that dog, I'm just, from what I've read in their letter, what I perceive is they concern, and the 3 succeeding prosecuting attorneys in Lewis County have indicated there is a liability issue to the county. That if the dog that has bitten someone is adopted or is placed for adoption and subsequently again bites or inflicts even worse damage to a person, then the county will be liable for potential damages or suit because of their negligence in allowing a dog which has been declared vicious to be adopted, or even to be rescued, I think, if they would carry it that far. And I know that in reading the literature that was attached to the letter in support of their recommendation to terminate the volunteers, that there was an effort, valiant effort made on the part of the volunteers and the rescue people to allow that dog to be rescued. But that, under Lewis County, would not be a solution because, again, they would still, in their belief, be liable for any subsequent violence or that the dog might perpetrate against future owners that were obtained through the rescue service.
Okay, and I think what you're saying is very valid, but I may be wrong, and someone correct me if I am. It's my understanding that we had a dog trainer working with that dog. Rescue was willing to waive any liability that would occur, and they had already found a place for this dog to go.
I don't know, and again, I'm not a lawyer.
Well, that's what
I'm saying, I don't know that a third party can waive action. In other words, they cannot waive the liability for Lewis County. Lewis County is the only, if the person that obtains the dog can waive in some manner, but I don't know, I don't know that even would solve the problem in terms of Lewis County's position.
Well, is it possible that we can take a little more time to sort through this, or are you telling me it's a done deal today?
I think, if I may speak,
Yeah, I think so.
I think that what it comes down to is Upshur County and Lewis County work together because separately we can't afford to do what needs to be done.
I understand that.
And my recollection, the last time we checked, the taxpayers of Upshur County, just Upshur County, have subsidized the dog pound to the tune of $700,000 or $800,000. So the taxpayers, we're having to take money out of general revenue to fund the dog pound operation because there's not enough of the dedicated revenues to operate it. So there's no way that each of the two counties separately could operate and function. But here's the thing, because Lewis County pays half the bills, Upshur County pays half the bills. Lewis County has an animal control officer, Upshur County has an animal control officer. So they do their thing in each county, and then they bring them to the animal control facility, and then there's policies as to how things would be handled there. Each county, because they contribute financially, has the authority to set their own policies. And I don't know how many policies are different between Upshur and Lewis, but I do know the main one is this particular issue as far as a dog that is bitten someone.
Right.
Now ours is a lot more generous.
And I'm very thankful for that, because
Okay.
if any of you would ever set foot inside the shelter for 2 hours, you would see the way the dogs are brought in, and they are scared to death. And when they go into defense mode. And they might actually bite because they're afraid.
Well,
And so I'm really glad that we have a different
And I
policy.
understand that perfectly well, because we have a rescue dog that we got, my family, from the town. He's a little Chiweenier dog, and he's just as sweet as can be until our son picks on him, and then he'll bite him.
And I bite
And
your
I
son
understand
too.
it, and I understand that, and that's the way a lot of dogs are, But here's the issue. The issue really isn't with Upshur County. Your issue concerns Lewis County. My recommendation would be you go to Lewis County Commission and you talk to them, because the whole crux of this issue is the Lewis County policy. That's what it is. If they had the same policy as Upshur County, there would be no issue. Am I correct? In this particular case.
With the case of the dog, yeah, when they're
Right.
out.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So in this particular situation, you're preaching to the choir here in Upshur County. And because we are in a joint effort with Lewis County, they've made a request to us that we take a certain action here. Now, personally, I wouldn't have a problem with delaying this if it had to be 2 weeks, because we're not meeting 2 weeks, but only on the condition that you go to Lewis County and talk to the Lewis County Commission.
But there's other issue involved as well.
Okay,
You
well,
You spoke with passion.
yes.
I have 3 dogs and 3 cats, so I certainly love animals.
I know you do.
But I think the other issue here, which is the motivating factor in the letter from Lewis County, is the result of actions alleged on the part of the volunteers involved. And it's not something that is not uncommon today with social media.
That's correct.
People are passionate about animals. People are passionate about children, abused children. And we are and should be passionate. But at the same time, when we, as individuals, post things on the various websites, Facebook, and I'm not even on Facebook, but what's the other one called, Twitter? I'm way behind on social things. But when you post those things there, your purpose in doing so may very well be high-minded and motivated by your passion for animals in this case. But once that is posted, and once it goes out to other people who are also passionate, but maybe passionate to an extreme, then things get out of control. People are threatened, as alleged by the Lewis County Commission. Family members and spouses of employees or officials are threatened, and it becomes something way beyond what the initial issue was. But I concur with Donnie that this is an issue that is presented to Upshur County for resolution, but really is not of our making or of our. It is certainly of our concern, but it's not of our making. I guess I would like Ms. Cochran, the director of the shelter, to respond to some of the things, and because she certainly has an interest in the daily activities and the management of the shelter, to make sure that I've been to the shelter. My wife will tell you, if within my power, I would do the same as you believe. I mean, I've gone as far as when I've been out to one of the stores here where people often bring animals to outside the doorway of the store and have them for available. I've called my wife and said, hey, can I?
That's your mistake.
And she would, and if she were there, she would call me if I went there.
You just throw it in the car and bring it home.
And I've done that before
So have I.
with cats. We have some. Jan, would you like to respond, please? Are you completed?
Yeah, that's all I'm asking, that you please table it and allow the alleged people that are being asked to be dismissed be able to talk to you all about.
Well, Lewis County is who they need to.
Well, but
They were
some of it
explaining to me,
concerns
we're not-
Upshur County too, I believe. So, I would like communication to be very evident. I would like people to be able to try to resolve. I mean, even if the end issue is still the same, the end result is still the same. I would like to give everybody the opportunity to voice their feelings. And You know, that's all I'm asking, because this is the way I feel about it. I can see it from all perspectives. That's what I do. I see it from all perspectives. And there's the good, the bad, and the ugly on all sides, to be perfectly honest with you. But I guess I go back to why I'm here, the animals. And we have a very powerful group of volunteers and dedicated. And I just hate to see, you know, us lose that support for the animals. That's basically it.
Good morning. Yeah, I think one of the biggest concerns with Lewis County is the way it went about. One, the policy for Lewis County is that if an animal bites, it is euthanized after the 10 days if the owner doesn't take it back. That is policy, always has been policy. When some of the volunteers asked what the date was, we told them, which most of them already knew, and then they went to the prosecuting, when I went to the prosecuting attorney and tried to get something done so the dog wouldn't be put to sleep. And then they started calling the commission offices. And then one of the volunteers confronted an animal control officer and pretty much told him the dog was not going to go down. And I don't know what all was said. I was out sick that week. But it was so bad that another county employee was at the shelter, came to Kelly and spoke to Kelly about how this volunteer spoke to John Snyder, Lewis County Animal Control Officer. And this person did not feel that anybody should be talked to the way he was being, that John got spoken to that day. So then it's everything that went into social media. When our volunteers come up and they fill out their application and they sign everything, they agree to a policy agreement. And it outlines what they're allowed to do and what they cannot do. And the volunteers are asking for dismissal, have broke these in different ways. You know, so if you're going to allow them to break the rules, then you shouldn't have the policy agreement to start with. You just might as well throw it out. And that's where it's at. I mean, I don't know a lot about the whole situation. I know because, you know, I was emailed and texted and stuff about the dog. And I know the prosecuting attorney had called me and wanted me to call her, so I did when I came back in. Of course, she was already the grand jury, and then right after I spoke to her secretary, one of the commissioners called me, or no, to take that back, Cindy called me first, the administrator, and said, it is a decision, the policy is this, the commission's sticking to this. So one of the volunteers had come in that day, and she said, what is the fate of the dog? And I said, as said before, the dog will be euthanized. Like, she went out of the office, she said, by whose words? I said, that's the commission's ruling. Like 5 minutes later, I get a call from Cindy asking me to call one of the commissioners. I called, he said, Jan, this is a done deal. Commission says this dog goes down, this dog goes in. And then we'll worry about it. And so, John and I put the dog to sleep.
What's your thoughts again? You recommend
Well,
this matter should be brought before the Lewis County.
I think we actually have two issues here. One of them is the policy of the Lewis County Commission relative to the disposition of dogs that bite.
Right.
That's an issue that will have to be dealt with the Lewis County Commission. We have our policy, they have their policy. I don't think our policy's been questioned. It's Lewis County's policy's been questioned as far as that. Now, the other issue we have, as you just pointed out, we have an agreement that's signed by all volunteers. And you're saying that that agreement was violated in this
Yes.
case.
I can give you some examples. That's the one I want to use here. It says, don't involve yourself in any decision to euthanize an animal. Do not openly question, criticize, or post anything on social media websites. Decisions made by the staff in this facility perform euthanasia of an animal. That is one thing. So when they put themselves in there to try to save the dog, they did that. It says right here, you got reason of termination and reasons for dismissal. Is failure to to Lewis Upshur Animal Control Policy, Volunteer Program Policies, Procedures. Disclosing confidential information. It's not to be public what animals are going to be euthanized. We don't have a list of this dog's going to go down this. It all goes on how many animals we have in the shelter, the age of the animal, how long the animal's been there, the temperament of the animal. That's how we make our decisions and how full we are. Since the group Love has come in, Love has done a lot of great things because they're all very passionate people. And I think sometimes their heart does their thinking for them. Since Love has come into working with the shelter, we have not put more than 6 dogs down in a month. Previous to that, coming in, the most we could put down in a year had been 10 per month. I went back from November 2012 to October 2014 and took the numbers. And the most we could put down was 10. The most since they've been involved with us has been 6. It does help having extra hands that can be on the computers and contacting different rescues and putting pleas out. And then they make their list of who they feel that's in danger. And they're like, this dog is going to be the next dog because it's been here the longest. We need to move this dog. They have helped by sponsoring dogs. They have helped with medical care of dogs. They have helped with transporting dogs. So the things they have done have been great. But then the rules that they can't follow that you guys put in place.
My concern, and as I've stated, I don't question their passion, the individuals here. But even in violating the rules that they agreed to follow when becoming volunteers, they created, by posting things on social media, they created an atmosphere where others who they did not have contact with, I'm not saying that the volunteers had contact with others who sent some pretty vile postings to various individuals in Lewis County government. We have to, we hear today that we don't take responsibility for our actions many times.
Right.
That's a problem with society. We refuse as individuals to take responsibility for our actions. There was a time in my life when you could be civil disobedient. You could disobey the law. But in doing so, you understood that you would suffer whatever the penalty involved. But somehow our society has moved to the point where we can disobey, but if someone enforces the rule, that they're the bad guys because I should be understood or whatever. I don't believe any of these volunteers intended for this to, for lack of another term, get out of hand. But apparently it has in Lewis County. We have not been impacted, as Mr. Tenney indicated, because we do not have the same policy. But as they are a co-operator of the facility, they have standing to ensure that their rules are followed. It's a dual, and if the volunteers certainly should understand that when they volunteer to work at our facility, which happens to be in Upshur County, that even though it's in Upshur County, it still has to, we still have to maintain some degree of cooperation with Lewis County, because they again are co-owners, co-operators of the facility. The question in terms of whether the policy is a good policy or not belongs in Lewis County, and people that advocate a no-kill policy should be presenting their case before the Lewis County Commission. But in terms of the conduct of the volunteers not being and following with the paperwork they filled out to become volunteers, that's without question that it was violated. I agree with you on that. It was violated. The intention of violating it might have been very pure. It might have been very well intended. And I might even be sympathetic to it. but nonetheless, it was violated. And there has to be responsibility for that conduct. As unpleasant as it may be for me or Mr. Tenney or any other commissioner sitting, make that decision. You know, these are not the decisions we aspire to make when we become county commissioners. These are not the things of government that we want to deal with to improve the lives of people. But this initiative nonetheless has come before us, not of our making, certainly, but it is a responsibility we have as also directors or co-directors of that facility. And there's no question, can anyone say the policy was not violated, even with the best of intentions? Any of you in the chambers here who were volunteers that posted things, do you deny violating the policy that you signed?
I think the policy was wrote so it would be violated.
I
You
can't.
can't get passionate people and expect them to save animals without that policy being violated.
Well, this is the, I'll just read a couple sentences here that came from the Lewis County Commission. It says, additionally, 4 volunteers have publicly posted abusive remarks and untruths regarding a particular animal that was subject to this policy. These remarks caused great anguish to the Commission, Animal Control Officer, Prosecuting Attorney, and staff. In fact, because of their actions, employee spouses have been threatened at their places of occupation. Although we support each and every viewpoint and the right to express these, we do not feel it's appropriate for volunteers to question policy, launch attacks, and promote calls to county officials. These actions are defeatist in serving our combined mission of working to help the citizens and provide for our animal friends. And then they go on to make the request. So there has to be, with passion, there still has to be some control.
Right. And how can you be so passionate for an animal, but you don't have the same compassion towards a human being?
For what?
For a human being.
You cannot connect the two. I've heard that argument, that there is, because you're passionate for an animal does not minimize your possible passion for human beings as well. So I can't, for me personally, I do not believe that is the argument.
Well, I mean, I understand, and I agree with what you're saying, but we've never had a group like this to come in and be passionate about, you know, abortion rights or, I mean, whichever way you think. We don't see those issues debated. Now, and I understand, because I love animals as much as anybody, and I'd hate to see an animal abused, but there's certain realities in the way life is. And when you have more animals coming into a shelter that you can afford to keep, and I know there's been suggestions to put more runs, make bigger buildings, and all that costs money, and there's no doubt. But you also have a lady here from the library that if we spent another $100,000 out there, I think she would have a legitimate concern that she could express of, is it not important to fund the library more than what you can? I mean, we had to cut them this year. So that's the position we're in. And the only thing we're asking people, within your you have to control your passion to stay within the law and within the agreement you signed. And if your passion cannot be, if with, you know, everyone has the right to take their passion to whatever heights they feel they need to in any situation. And nobody can, I mean, that's a right you have, as long as it's lawful. But by the same token, if what you signed in this agreement limits that passion, then the thing to do is not sign the agreement and work in other means. Because of this being a government situation, there has to be limitations and there has to be constraints. And so the simplest way to do that is find some place that you can work where your passion is not limited like it is in this, because we don't have any we don't have any recourse but to make limitations because of everything, the limitations we have to work within.
Or work through the system to get Lewis County to reconsider their position. You may be unsuccessful, you may be successful, but that venue is really, if you are a volunteer, under the guidelines that you would agree to follow when you become a volunteer, that is your recourse, is to work to change their perspective, to soften their resolve in that area. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful, because again, they have a history with their prosecuting attorney that there's liability issues. And believe me, once you become an elected official and have any responsibility to the public, you understand the term liability and how that hits at every point of your operation. You can ask Mr. Edwards, the mayor from Buchanan, whether liability is an issue in his job, in the city's position. Yes, it is. Ask the Board of Education. Ask any governmental body. Liability is in the forefront of any decision you make. Do you have anything else, Jan?
Yeah, I just want, I don't know if people know who makes this policy, but it wasn't staff at the shelter that made the policy.
No, it is the county
Megan
commission.
and Jennifer put it together, brought it in front of the commissioners. This is what they decided to do after we had an incident a year ago, just to help change some things. We're just there to try to enforce it.
Well, you have to be, I hate to use the word neutral in a sense when you're dealing with animals, but you, the staff, the paid staff, has to be neutral. They cannot allow their personal feelings to conflict with what the case of the Lewis County Commission's position in this matter, or not in this matter, but in similar cases as well. It's not an easy job that you have. And it's not easy for volunteers who are passionate to work in an environment where they know that there may be a conflict with their conscience.
Can I say something? There is one paragraph that was outlined in the policy, the volunteer policies and procedures, that stated to increase the community and individual awareness of animal issues such as overpopulation, responsibility of pet ownership, and forming and maintaining a group of volunteers committed to the common goals of the facility. That statement alone has been removed from the new volunteer policies and procedures. So you don't want the volunteers to enrich and inform the community of the issues that's going on in our community?
I don't know that there's any question you can volunteer. That's something you do on your own in terms of your...
Well, that was outlined in the procedures, but...
But it goes back to the point that in making those statements on the social media, you obviously, maybe not you personally, but by posting them in such a manner that was interpreted by others or misinterpreted by others, that led to the threats that were alleged by the commission, and some of which they provided us from photocopies of such. That would be inconsistent with that. Again, no matter how well intended fostering that information is to the public, if doing so in such a way results in threats to public officials or their family, that can be tolerated. I mean, that to me is the bottom line. Using the example, does the fact that someone disagrees with the abortion rights, does that permit someone to act in a violent way, which has happened in the past? No, it does not. Do certain people who are animal activists or animal rights supporters, are some of them possibly extreme as well? Has there been violence perpetrated by certain organizations or individuals? Yes, there have been. And so I think what we have to consider at this point is, when you're a volunteer and having signed that document, if you take upon yourself, no matter how well intended, I have to stress that, no matter how well intended, to go to social media or to go to some point beyond your supervisor or the commission or whatever, to act independently in what you believe is the best interest of an animal or animals, but that results in threats or serious potential. Luckily in this case there were no injuries or anything beyond threats, but threats are unsettling enough, I would believe, if I were a public official or even a private citizen. Yes, ma'am.
Number one, isn't that a public facility and everything in it is public? Is that not a case where I can walk up there and say, how many animals have been put down this month?
Yes. You
Okay,
get a report
and
once a
anything
month.
that happens as far as, you can walk into that facility and see a dog that is vicious. You can see a dog that is sweet as can be put down. It's public information.
We get
Now,
a
these
report
people
once a month.
should not have gotten aggressive at all in what they did. I don't know anything about this is new to me. But they should not have talked nasty of any way to anybody. So yes, they're guilty. But in taking the interest of the animals and what these people do to save animals, should it not be taken into consideration? Like you said, they need to go to Lewis County. It's not your laws. But you are the employers, so to speak, and you have the authority to say, we're going to put them on suspension. They can help outside of the facility, and we want them to continue to help, but they need to know this is not proper and you're not going to accept it again.
I don't know that you could take that approach because you've already had violation of trust from the point of, I'm speaking for you, but you can speak for yourself. I suspect that she would be uncomfortable, as she's indicated and letter to us also, an issue today involving one of the same individuals that the county, Lewis County, has identified.
And also, they can't be responsible for what John Doe does because of what they passionately said, which they could be completely right in what they said. It is public information. But they can't be responsible because some idiot out here threatens the county commission.
No, but we as elected officials, county commission, has that responsibility to weigh the information, to make a decision which we believe is in the best interest of the facility, best interest of the county, and in some ways possibly the best interest of the volunteers who, in their passion, have maybe not exercised proper judgment.
Well, I know that maybe not in the past year, but in past years, there was many dogs being put to sleep out there.
Well, I
And
think-
because of hard-working volunteers, it has changed
I think that has
tremendously.
been acknowledged by the...
Well, I'm not talking about from 10 to 6. We're talking about from 30 to 6.
That may be, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, yeah, you keep going back, I mean, the numbers are getting better every year.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got Facebook now. You have, all the websites, stuff that wasn't available maybe 10 years ago. And the network, and more rescues coming involved. And it's something we're doing all the time. We do Pet Finder, we do our website, we do Facebook. You're talking to your rescue saying, hey, we need you to pull this, we've got this coming in, we have hoarding cases coming in, can you help us? It's the rescues, it's the staff, it's the volunteers, it's all of us working together. But that's just that we have to work together.
But I think that, from what I gathered from what you've said, and from certainly Lewis County's position, that breach of trust has been violated to the point where I don't know that, in case of your recommendation, I don't know that the Lewis County Commission would retreat or would reconsider their request. Based on what their communication with Jan, it would appear that they are very firm, I think you've indicated,
Yes.
in their in their position on their policy.
Well, so are you all gonna vote to carry out Lewis County? I mean, I don't quite understand the process here. Maybe I'm confused a little
We're
bit.
not going to vote on Lewis County's ordinance or their policy. That is their policy, not our policy.
Okay, but you will be voting on whether to
retain
release.
volunteers.
Yes, okay. So that was what I was asking.
At the request of Lewis County. And it'd be like we had an issue with regards to any matter regarding personnel, whether paid or volunteer, which we had issues with. And if roles were reversed, if the facility were located in Lewis County, and we had to make a request, as co-employers, I think the term you used a little bit ago, you have to weigh that. You have to weigh their concerns. You have to weigh their requests seriously. Because if we are to continue our mutual working together, we've got to take consideration, for what their observations are, their requests are. Are there any other additional comments? Yes,
May I?
certainly.
I'm choosing also.
Please identify yourself for the viewing audience.
Okay. Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Mills, and it's not a very well-kept secret in Upshur County or Lewis that I am an advocate for animals. I've helped in many different capacities. I usually try to restrict myself to fundraising only because I can't handle seeing an animal put down. I have trouble handling it even when it's one of mine, and it's for the best. I still don't do well with that. Couple of things. First off, it's been mentioned about the social media, and I'm going to use this in a way that it doesn't just pertain to this, but it pertains to a lot of things. There are a lot of people, and it may be because of their health, it may be because of their physical limitations, it may be because, they don't like to go out of their home. But there are a lot of people, I think, that get on social media as a way of connecting with others and having friends with mutual interests. And I'll admit, I've even encountered people who, when it comes to the issue of animal safety, animal protection, animal cruelty, they make me look pretty tame. And JC, you and Donnie both have encountered me a few times about one issue or another pertaining to animals and pets. My first question for you all to ponder, I don't expect you to answer it now, but my first question for you to ponder is, have you ever thought about getting with the Lewis County Commission and saying, okay guys, we've got this shelter in common. And I don't know where Rick comes into this, but doesn't the city?
He doesn't.
Okay, wait a minute, but doesn't the
We're
city
Jennifer.
actually own the shelter?
No.
Okay, so it's all county. All right.
The city's only participation is the cats. So they do have a participation.
Yeah, Vicky's Cat House, I know.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, and that's
It's not
something
Vicky's
else
now.
that needs to be discussed, but anyway, that can be done at a later time. Anyway, getting with Lewis County Commission and asking if it's not time to sit down and give serious consideration to developing a policy when a dog comes in, because it's my understanding this dog did come in from another county, right? Did it come in?
Jan, she could give the detail.
It did come in from Lewis County. And looking to see, does the dog have a biting history? Has the dog bitten a number of people? Because there's a big difference between a dog that, gets somebody one time and a dog that's bitten multiple people.
I think the policy in Lewis County is you can't develop a history because if it bites one time.
It's
that's it.
done.
Well, and this is what I'm saying, should maybe there be, because a lot of areas outside of West Virginia even, have a policy in place where if you're And there's actually, in fact, a legal group called the Lexus Project that, if this gets taken to court, will come in and defend the animal. They won't defend the people, but they will defend on behalf of the animal. Could they not maybe consider tweaking that policy a little bit to where if Donnie has a dog and I'm out riding my bike someday, and as I go down the road, the dog runs out and bites me, and I have to have stitches. Well, could it not be considered that instead of grabbing the dog immediately and killing it, do what some of the other areas have done, which is mandate that that dog is immediately seized, it is held in quarantine to watch and make sure it doesn't have any issues like rabies, but then it can only be released to a group or an organization that deals with the acquirement and retraining of dogs that are deemed vicious.
Well, see there again, that's an issue that needs to be taken to the Lewis County Commission.
Well, actually, it might be a consideration here as well, because it's my understanding that we've got some dogs in the city limits.
Well, sure, we got dogs in the city limits.
Yeah, but hasn't there recently been a complaint about somebody with pit bulls, and they've been driving the neighborhood crazy?
All right, let me, if you don't mind, let me clarify. We do have an ordinance, Ordinance 300, the Animal Care and Control Commission, that is designed behind Ordinance 300. Unfortunately, I will tell you this, as you, I believe, are fully aware, they have not met since 2001, and we are now trying to reconvene that. There is within our ordinance, just for reference sake, that we treat the same issue with vicious dogs and repeat offenders of, which they are required, and our municipal judge has a say in, and the commission and the mayor has a say to say whether or not that dog should be euthanized. According to the ordinance as it is now, though, it is almost a requirement that if an animal is a vicious animal and attacks a human being or other animal or pet, that yes, consideration for euthanasia is almost immediate. Now, that has not been enforced, I will tell you that. We are pretty lenient with our issues with dogs. And to what Melissa is asking, as far as the pit bull attacks, I believe Jan may be aware as well that there have been an issue with 1 or 2 pit bulls, which is kind of the reason why we are now fixing to address it again. That's all I can say on that, really.
And our position is not the same as Lewis County, as has been brought up.
Could you guys get together and try to come up with common?
We've already got our policy.
No,
It
I
is
mean,
Lewis County that you
Lewis
have to
County.
change the policy to your liking. We have no, they have stated in the letter, 3 successive prosecuting attorneys in Lewis County have made the recommendation that the ordinance or the rules that are in place for dogs that bite humans be terminated, euthanized, because of liability issues. That is, from what I can understand, etched in stone, because Jan has indicated that when she called the county administrator, and when she called, secondly, she called at the request of the commissioner, she returned both calls, and on both occasions, she was adamantly told the dog is to be put down. There is not a change in policy in Lewis County. They have responsibility for Lewis County. It's not that we don't communicate with them. It's not that we don't discuss matters of mutual interest with them. But when it becomes a matter of policy, they have to make their policy. This policy that has been adopted by Lewis County, which maybe appear to be more lenient in its impact, is one that we feel very comfortable with. The policy they have, which has been in existence apparently for a good number of years, is a policy that they believe is the proper policy. The only way that really can be considered changed would be if the commission had people appear before it, similar to those appearing before us today and voicing their concerns. were to change the hearts or the minds or establish a different legal principle with the prosecuting attorneys. I know as commissioners, we rely very heavily on legal opinion. That goes to the liability question. It may be, in my personal opinion, that a certain course of action may be taken, not just with animals, but with how we affect a decision on the county commission. But if the prosecuting attorney or if other legal authority that is familiar with the issue at hand is being considered gives a firm opinion that this is the opinion, the legal opinion, and this is the case history, the precedents, there have been other similar issues resolved previously, and that if you follow your heart, not your head or your brain, that you will open up the county to liability, then I have to look out for the county's interest. It may be the commissioners themselves aren't comfortable with the policy, but for reasons as stated, and I can't speak for them because I've never discussed the issue with them. I doubt Mr. Tenney has. Have you? So, you know, it may be that they might personally not like that, but if they're told by their legal authorities that that is what you have to do to protect the county citizens of Lewis County, then it is pretty imperative that they follow the legal opinions, or they don't do so at their own, you know, their own threat. I'm sorry, that is standard. As I've said, the mayor will tell you that. Anyone who is in business would reflect that same opinion or position. Many of the matters we make decisions on, not just this. You're not comfortable making those decisions, and you wish you could avoid those decisions. But by virtue of sitting at this bench, or sitting in the chambers of City Hall, by being the representative of the public, you have to make those decisions, so no matter how personally repugnant they might be. And that's not easy. It's not, I'm not going to cry on your shoulder, that's not the purpose of it, but if people think this is always an easy job, you come in and you can easily off the cuff make a decision that affects so many people and so many issues. And affects things that, like the owning of a pet. You know, people are animal lovers. I'm an animal lover, and I would never want to see one abused or hurt. But when that conflicts, which it does apparently in this case, then I have to make a decision based on what I believe to be the best interest of the county. I can't avoid voting. I can't avoid making a decision. It's not allowable under the rules that I have to operate under.
Can these volunteers be placed on probation, knowing that if they do it again, I mean, they stand to lose a lot at the shelter if these people are gone. Look at the money that they have raised, the fundraisers they do, the volunteers, the cleaning, the transports, that's going to go away.
They can just be banned from going inside the facility.
And I would ask this. I mean, this is a difficult situation at best, because this is a situation that occurred in a neighboring county. However, fortunately / unfortunately, Upshur County is caught in having to, I wouldn't say do business with, but work with that county.
On a multitude of areas.
Well, but in this particular case, as far as the Lewis Upshur Animal Control Facility is concerned. A minute ago you mentioned that you can't compare an animal's life to that of a human.
I did not mention that.
I did not say
that.
I didn't say you did. It was brought up that you can't. I will say this. If we're talking about a cross between an animal and an infant or a toddler child, you're absolutely right. When it comes to adults, I've seen situations, I've personally witnessed situations where people have claimed that, you know, an animal did something, it bit them viciously. And were it not for the animal welfare groups and the volunteers stepping up, that animal would be dead today. Again, I'll reference the Lexus Project. And there was a case in Arkansas where this person claimed that this dog bit her child, and somehow the kid got marks on him, but the best part was there was a bite. And once the Lexus Project came in and it went to court, one of the first things that derailed the whole case for the mother and the child was the fact that when they brought in the experts, it was determined that was not a canine bite. It was a human bite. And of course, she was going to try to sue. The point is, instead of immediately taking the dog and killing it, some people intervened illegally, probably, and only because that area first put the dog someplace where even the owners couldn't visit it. So then somehow they found out where the dog was, and some people went in and seized the dog and put the dog in hiding. And in fact, it was rumored the dog was taken 3 states away until the hearing was held. Well, thank God somebody saw the light of reason. And that dog is still alive, and sometime in the next few months you're going to see a movie based on this whole case. Now, you're right in that Upshur County can't make the Lewis County Commission do anything they are or are not willing to do. But what I'd like to say on behalf of the volunteers, there have been situations that I know of that people have seen, that the facility needed volunteers. And when I've tried to, suggest that maybe they apply to go out, can't do it. And I've said, why? Well, you don't know how it works out there. You go out there, and if you piss anybody off, you're on a list, and then you won't be allowed to pull animals. You won't be, in fact, you'll be told that you can't come back. Now, I used to volunteer with the American Heart Association when it was active here in town. We never turned a volunteer away. Now, there were some that couldn't work together. You always have that. But nobody was ever turned away. In this case, the volunteers, anybody that loves animals is going to get upset about this because that is their nature. They want to protect the animals. I don't necessarily feel that it's fair because of this particular incident to drop 4 volunteers. I could see maybe suspending them. I could see maybe giving them a professional timeout. I could see putting something in writing saying, we're giving you this warning. This isn't baseball. You don't get 3 strikes, 1 more and that's it. But if you base it solely on what was posted on social media, it's been a little over a year ago, I could have run up here and stood in this very spot and complained about the fact that a paid employee of Upshur County had failed to follow the standards set forth at that facility. And when some other people had been vocal about it, when I joined in and voiced my concerns, and yes, I did pass on the pictures because these were pictures, I believe I shared them with you, Mr. Rafferty. It was obvious the cages weren't being cleaned, the animals weren't being fed and watered properly. And do you know what happened? That employee's offspring proceeded to send me, and I think I still have them saved, some of the nastiest, most vicious emails and Facebook messages that I've ever received. Now keep in mind, I work with pageants and pageant mothers.
What was your response to that? Did you feel?
Oh, let me explain my response to that. That individual was, in fact, romantically connected to one of my neighbors.
Well,
And so, no, wait a minute. So yes, I was concerned. I was concerned for my pets, and I was concerned for my property, as well as
for
my
your
safety.
safety as well?
Oh, yeah. When you're told, we will catch you, you will regret this.
Well, this is the same type of language or worse that was directed against employees in Lewis County.
And yet,
And if you're telling me that you get upset or felt threatened for property damage or personal injury because of these postings on social media, how much more, or not, the employees and the officials in Lewis County would feel the similar way that you felt?
only I didn't ask for anybody's termination. I didn't even come in and ask that you all reprimand the individual.
But we kind of going all around the Calder's bench on this one. We've pretty much talked about all the possibilities and all the issues and whatever. But it's, you know, it's a matter where the Lewis County Commission they're the ones that have made the request. They're the ones that were if there's a term to use, victims. Their employees and officials are the victims. Maybe not directly at the hand of the volunteers. But because, again, social media, other people get involved who are more or less aggressive or more passionate. And that passion can go to a point where murder is considered a crime of passion. Yet someone gets murdered because it's committed by someone of passionate reasons. Does that make them any less responsible? No. And I'm not comparing this to murder, but people can be, and we know people can be motivated by the least of things. Something to you that you brush off your back, never bothers you. Other people take to heart and they fester it, they grow it, they continue to think about it, and then at some point they will or can act on it. As evidenced by any number of incidents that have occurred in recent past. And I think that is what Lewis County considers a problem with the way in which the volunteers exercise their passion. And I know some of them, I know them to be good people. But I think we need to bring this to a vote.
How many volunteers at our shelter are from Lewis County?
I have no idea. I've never broke it down.
How many active volunteers would you say we have out there, Jan? I know we've approved quite a few.
Yes,
No,
we
we
get four more today.
we do approve a lot, but a lot of them are like, 'cause there's a lot of college students that just come up and walk on their schedules and stuff. Active on a daily basis, we have one that's usually there every day. We have one that's there like 3 days a week. And then we have the other ones that come in like 1 to 2 days a week, and they're walking dogs or transporting. Saturdays, we're seeing about 3 usually that are always there.
Excuse me for a minute. The first 2 that you mentioned that come in basically once a day and are very active, are they from Lewis County?
One of them is.
Okay, and then the 3 that come in on Saturdays, are any of them from Lewis County?
The one, I think she's from Lost Creek, and the other, and I think 2 of them are from Lost Creek actually, and one is from Upshur County. There's
Now, Lost Creek is Harrison County, am I right?
Yeah, I think so.
My question then would be, you know, in order to not see the facility lose 4 volunteers, which again, I would go back to one possible solution being you slap their hands hard and give them a timeout, and then maybe consider having 1 or more of the commissioners meet with all of the volunteers and say, in order to be maintained as a volunteer, you know, if we meet once or twice a year, you will be required to attend the meeting. And talk to them about, you know, what problems do they see, what solutions do they, not just present problems, but actually try to give solutions to them. And that may leave a little bit of the stress. It's just that my concern is, when it comes to animal advocacy, you hear this a lot, and it was spoken by a very, very, very intelligent man. Albert Einstein once said, the world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who see evil and do nothing. If you are truly a lover of animals and an advocate of animals, that is pretty much the core of your belief. And many times that quote could apply to other situations. But in this case, first off, can the facility afford to lose 4 volunteers? Which I don't think it can. And secondly, you're right, absolutely no one should be threatened. No one should have been. But if I post something about not liking the weather, and somebody then goes nuts and sends WDTV a threat saying that they're gonna come over and kill the weather person, that's my fault, I'm not supposed to post about the weather anymore?
Well, let me ask you a question, because it's come up a couple issues, a couple times here about something of a lesser punishment than dismissal. Now, Jan, why don't you stand up there just a second, if you don't mind, Lisa? Remind us and tell everyone what our policy is as far as infractions against the agreement. Do we fire people the first time they do something wrong? Or what's our policy?
I think if you have a total proof that somebody that's an employee of the county did something wrong, without a shadow of doubt, you fire us. There would be no other chance. In our policy agreement before the new policy came out, that Kelly and Carrie put together, it was a write-up, or a verbal, and then a write-up, and then you could be dismissed. Of little things at the shelter that I would say, I could give you a verbal, then I could give you a write-up that you'd have to sign, and then you could be dismissed. But I have only asked for one and volunteered to be dismissed. And the other ones have come from Lewis County,
Correct.
which is the co-partner.
Which also contains the individual that you requested.
Right.
I guess my question is, these other 4 individuals, have they gone through the verbal?
One has had a verbal and a write-up.
Okay, so one you've done what people are requesting.
Yes.
Go through that process. And then, do you feel that there's some infractions that are in our policy? I guess that's what we need to go by. Are there some infractions that would
The other ones that
necessitate
did it?
going straight to the end result as far as dismissal, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know what Lewis County got. I don't know what proof they have. I have not seen the letters that came into them or anything like that. I found out the same way that the volunteers found out. I read it in the paper. And then later I was informed who the 4 volunteers were. But I had no idea that Lewis County was making this recommendation until it was in the paper. So I don't know what they have done. So if they have broke 2 or 3 of these things that's in this policy, then yes. I mean,
And on that note, I would say I would sincerely hope, and I'm not a volunteer out there for the reasons I stated earlier, but I would sincerely hope that if I were a volunteer and the Upshur County Commission were giving any thought at all to telling me that I could no longer come out there, I could no longer even walk dogs, I would sincerely hope that before you did that, you actually saw what proof they had, and talk it over with Jan.
We have seen the emails that
Right.
they've sent to us along with the cover letter.
Well,
So there is some very vile things stated in emails relative to some of the officials and.
my question would be, and I'm not trying to muddy the waters here, but are they sure that the emails in fact came from where it says they came from?
No, they're Facebook posts. So it's
Facebook
pretty
posts.
obvious
Oh, well
that
then,
they
yeah,
came-
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the 4 employees or the 4 volunteers. I'm not saying that they are the ones that sent these particular emails, but there's a causation, a connection between their postings on social media and what other people did from their postings, possibly. But again, the issue relative as to the justification, we're acting on a request from Lewis County Commission. They've requested in their cover letter that we remove these volunteers as volunteers. Their reasons are known to them totally, other than what they've shared with us.
Could I please ask that instead of making the decision today, you all talk to those commissioners?
You can talk to the commissioner. I've explained this, that the matter should be brought by the interested parties to the Lewis County Commission because they are the ones that have the policy that is in question here, not the Upshur County Commission. I can't argue for them or against them. You have to present not you personally, but anyone who has a matter of interest in this needs to appear before the Lewis County Commission, to get the matter resolved. Now, Mr. Tenney earlier requested or suggested we might postpone this to allow interested parties to appear before the Lewis County Commission. I have no problem with that. If that were a motion, do you make that as a motion, Mr. Tenney?
Well, I just think that waiting a couple of weeks is not going to make that much difference in what we do, and it's going to...
It'll be 2 weeks because we do not
Right,
meet next Thursday.
next week's Thanksgiving.
Does Lewis County meet before then, though, in 2 weeks?
On Mondays.
They meet on Monday, so they'll probably meet next Monday. I mean, we're talking two different issues here, really. The purpose to go to the Lewis County Commission would be to encourage them to change their policy. That would be the issue there.
Barring that, barring their changing the policy, they are still on record requesting that we remove the volunteers. And for reasons we've stated a number of times during this meeting, we would be required to seriously consider their request because they are co-operators, co-employers, terminology that was used, of the facility. It'd be the same as if we had a reason to request that they reciprocate in some manner because our commission found a grievance or something with some of the volunteers. If the roles were reversed, we would request that they might act. They would have to go through the same procedure as we are.
I think it would be quite acceptable if you all would decide to at least give it a week. 2 weeks would be great.
Well, Monday is less than 2 weeks if you're talking about them meeting next Monday.
And it depends on how quickly you can get on their agenda.
Well, you'd have to contact them like you do us at least a couple of days in advance to get the agenda put together.
But I think that would be great, and I think for the most part, most people could live with that.
But it may come back to us because you may or may not be successful in your pleading before the Lewis County Commission.
Well, and that would be the other issue. I mean, the changing of their policy is one issue, but that's not the imminent issue, which would be, and this is, I guess, the decision we have to make today. Do we want to allow these individuals, it's been requested by Lewis County, to have an opportunity to plead their case to Lewis County before we make a decision? That's the question we face today.
Exactly.
I think that would be fair.
Well, that's why I asked Jan, because we do have a request from Jan to dismiss someone today. And I guess my question is, the other individuals, that Lewis County's requesting we dismiss, have the same steps been taken?
For
The
one.
verbal, the written.
For one, the other two have never had anything.
Okay, so one's had a verbal.
One's had a verbal and a write-up.
Okay, and that's not the one you're asking to be dismissed today?
No.
Okay, that's another. So
That's another.
that is one that's had a verbal and a write-up.
Yes.
What's your thoughts, Jan? I mean, I certainly don't want Lewis County Commission to think that we're just
I see it.
thumbing our nose and passing the buck back to them, but by the same token, I think, I'm not law enforcement, what's that saying about everyone has the right to face their accuser?
No, it's constitutional.
Oh, it's constitutional, okay.
Thank God.
Maybe that makes it seasonal easier. But, we've been given some information along with the request from Lewis County. I guess my only concern is that we follow our procedure. Unless in our policy, it says that if something's egregious enough to this level, then you don't have a verbal, you don't have a written, you just fire them. And I don't know that that's in
I
there.
don't know if that states that. It
Well,
just goes verbal, write-up.
That would be my only concern, that we have a policy, And unless the policy says, okay, if it's to the point where everyone agrees that it's just so outrageous, so egregious, that you don't get a verbal, you don't get it written, and then 3 you're out.
Lewis County Commission would probably believe that is the case for they believe from stating in their letter that the threats which have caused, the alleged threats, I'll use that have caused harm to their employees and officials is their basis for requesting termination.
Well, if you are considering, postponing any action for dismissal of those volunteers, it would certainly be my recommendation for liability for the county that you at least place those volunteers on a probationary period, that they're not allowed to be at the animal control facility until they're able to go to Lewis County, state their claim, and it comes back to you for final action. I think that's something that the county might want to consider.
The only concern there I have is that in previous cases, we've been advised you cannot use the word probationary because that implies permanent position.
Well, but I think in this it would be
Until the
a
matter is
little
settled.
different situation than probationary employment. This would just be, Jan, what's your thoughts on that?
Suspension.
Suspension until we get word back from Lewis County, and then if Lewis County is adamant, then we'll deal with it.
But you've indicated earlier that you would, as part of this understanding, if we were to take that route, that they, as a condition, obligate themselves to appear before the county commission in Lewis County to resolve this issue. Is that your recollection?
Right, I mean, I think that, isn't that what's being asked?
I mean, it's a contingent on making this decision.
So that you can go to Lewis County Commission? Is that what's being asked?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. Otherwise, we would just take their recommendation. I think what we're doing is giving them an opportunity to go to Lewis County, plead your case. If they say, no, we're going to change their mind, then that would be the recommendation, go back and we'll act on that. We're basically giving you an opportunity to plead your case, and I do agree, I think suspension, I think I would move that we postpone it for 2 weeks with the understanding that the volunteers will go to Lewis County Commission, plead their case. They'll be suspended during that time period until it comes back to us, and then we'll make a decision based on the facts that happen as a result of that meeting. That would be my
That being a motion, I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
You gentlemen from Mr. Doss's class?
May I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the issues was not addressed, and that concerns me. My name is Brenda Lee, and Jan does,
But we have that matter to still come up.
I thought you said we was
We'll
discussing.
let you talk in just a minute if you want to.
I thought we were leaving.
Oh, no, I just said you can't. I wasn't saying you have to leave. If you
Oh,
want to stay all
okay.
day, you're welcome to stay.
Oh, okay.
Drink
I thought you said you were.
Yeah,
You're not leaving, are you?
No, it's coffee.
Oh, okay.
There are a number of items still on the agenda. Yeah, we'll take a short recess for a couple minutes. Okay, we have item number 6, approval of Lewis County Animal Control Facility volunteer. We have 4 volunteers requested, Justin Dines, Aaron Rugby, Connor Nichols, and Matthew Ferris. Is there a motion to approve those volunteers? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, the appointment of interim prosecuting attorney effective December 1, 2014. Appointment as interim can last no longer than 30 days per West Virginia Code 3.10.8. And is there a recommendation? I believe we've been approached by David Godwin, who is of the same party as Jake Rieger, therefore does qualify for an interim appointment. Have a motion to, and he has agreed to assume that position on an interim basis. Have a motion. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have approval and signature of letter to Progressive Bank requesting County Administrator Kelly Cunningham and Assistant County Administrator Kerry Wallace have access to county financial reports and data. A copy of the letter is on page 14. That's a routine correspondence. And I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do you have any invoices, checks, or anything which we can handle that? For information items, we have an invitation from Chapman Technical Group on their 30th anniversary celebration, Thursday, December 4th, 2014, 2 to 7 p.m. at St. Albans. We have correspondence from Wilkins Public Service District, Wilkins Road Public Service District appointing Larry Dieter to the Source Water Protection Committee. We have correspondence from the West Virginia Department of Revenue to State Tax Department certifying that Helen Phillips, assessor, has complied with the additional duties and is entitled to additional compensation of $15,000 per West Virginia State Code 7.7.6B. We have correspondence from the West Virginia Department of Transportation Division of Highways providing a review and comment period to the statewide transportation improvement program, which is known by the acronym STIP, for federal fiscal years 2014 through 2019, which includes the resurfacing of the Alexander Road. That is the only Upshur County project which they have listed in their documentation, and that will be, cost for that phase will be $265,000. They also have the Upshur County report of CATs at the facility. We have agendas and notices of meetings listed, we have meeting minutes listed, we have dates and meetings, times of meetings, and we have listings of appointments. The next regular meeting of the Upshur County Commission will be on December 4th, 2014, and we will not be here next Thursday because of the Thanksgiving holiday. And the County Commission will be holding interviews for the prosecuting attorney vacancy between Monday, December 1st and Friday, December 5th, between the hours of 1 to 5 p.m. Those will be scheduled by individuals who apply for that position. We have, going now back to the issue, which would be item number 4 on the agenda, the recommendation by Janella Cochran, the supervisor for the Lewis Upshur Animal Control Facility, recommending dismissal of Brenda Lee. Ms. Lee and this letter has requested that if anyone was a witness to a reported confrontation that she had with the Animal Control Facility officer from Lewis County, Mr. Snyder, that individual verified the information contained in Jan's letter requesting her removal as a volunteer. The letter contains the information that Greg Harris, our facilities manager, was present during that conversation. Greg, is that accurate? Were you present during that conversation?
That is correct, yes.
Could you please take the microphone, identify yourself for the viewing audience as well as your position with the county?
I'm Greg Harris, the Director of Facility Operations here for the county.
And have you had a chance to read Jan's letter?
I have not, no.
Okay, I'll read it. Let's see, it's on page 12. It's a short letter, but in one paragraph in length, and I'll read it. Dated November 6, 2014. Commissioners, is my recommendation that volunteer Brenda Lee be excused from volunteering at the Lewis Upshur Animal Control Facility. Excuse me. She was written up on August 27, 2014 for failure to have a harmonious relationship with the public. This is part of the agreement she signed in the volunteer program policies and procedures. Then on October 27, 2014, she had a confrontation with Lewis County Animal Control Officer John Snyder in an unprofessional matter over a dog that was in quarantine. Greg Harris, Upshur County Maintenance Supervisor, was also witness to this and reported it to County Administrator Kelly Cunningham. It has also been brought to my attention that Brenda Lee also took pictures of the same dog. Well, we won't go into that part because we've dismissed that as a concern because there was no proof or witnessing of that allegation. So as to the conversation between Animal Control Officer John Snyder and Ms. Lee, did that take place at the Animal Control Facility?
I would request a session with you all to discuss this stuff.
Executive session.
Executive session.
Well, and that would be determined if Ms. Lee wants to go in executive session or open session. It's her decision, since we'll be discussing issues about her.
Do you agree to executive session, Ms. Lee, or do you prefer public session or executive session? One is a closed hearing, the other is a public hearing.
Those are fine.
Public hearing.
Well, you know, I think this was issues against someone's moral character, and I don't know that it needs to be discussed out here in the open.
Okay, there was alleged comments made where,
Well, no,
Inflammatory
but the law says she has the right to be in open session or in executive session. I agree, it would be an executive session issue, but the kicker here is if the individual that we're going to discuss chooses to be in, it's up to them whether it's an open session or executive session that we discuss. Now, I would say that basically all we need here today is your witness. You don't have to go into a lot of detail, I don't think.
It was a confrontation.
We have a request from Jan that she be dismissed, that there were incidents that happened, one of which you were a witness of. And, you know, you can say, was it the confrontational? And you can verify what Jan is saying without going into a lot of
you
detail.
could not use quotes, but you could say if the language was demeaning or if there were personal epithets that were directed at the individual, if there was a confrontational, but I don't think it'd be necessary that you quote the exact language, but just qualify it as being extremely derogatory or unprofessional, however you'd want to describe it in your own opinion.
Well, I would agree that there was a confrontation. You know, other than that, I don't know that I need to go any farther. You know, I'm verifying that what Jan said there, so at that point, I'll take the fifth. So.
Was there hostility? Was it a hostile confrontation or ethanol confrontation?
I don't know that you'd call it hostile, but, you know, it was a confrontation.
All right. Is there a motion, Mr. Kenny?
I move to approve the recommendation of our animal control facility director.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there any other business other than passing or signing the bills and whatever that remain before the commission?
I will tell you that I followed up with Debbie Wilcock about that estate matter that you asked me
Right.
about before the meeting started. If the one you're referring to is the Brenda Smith estate,
I believe it may be.
then she said that there was going to be action brought to the commission after January.
Okay.
And she wasn't ready to move forward right now. It would be after the first of the year.
Okay, that resolves that issue. No other business appearing before the commission.
There's one other thing here that you might want to have Jan to be able to talk to. I'm not sure. This is just a note that Carrie left me having to do with ticketing.
Yes.
Is that something that you wanted to review with the commission, Jan?
Yes.
It has to do with our spay and neuter agreement, where people sign an agreement that they'll have their animals spayed or neutered, and if they don't comply, they can be fined. In the past, no one has ever been fined. I have talked to Willie numerous times when he was here about it, and he was like, it would cost the county more money to take them to court to fine them.
What is the fine?
It can, up to $250, no less than $150 and up to $250. Carrie said she went down and talked to Master, and they said it would be, I think, $75
For one
individual.
defendant, or two defendant would be
$100.
$100.
So that would be if both, husband and wife both put their signature on there, it would be $100. And I sent Carrie a message, does that mean that they would have that court cost on top of their ticket, or would the county, that's what the county has
Well, I
to?
think that in court costs like that, the
It would-
individual has
That's
to
what I
pay.
thought too, so
Yeah.
I didn't understand when Willie had told me
Yeah.
that, because John and I have been working on, we went back to some of Mike's, because if Mike got a disconnected number, he just left it at that. So John has took all the ones I've kept and passed them on, and he's going to be going, he's tried phone numbers, And then he's making door stops too,
Well, I
for the ones
understand.
that haven't complied. So we want to start writing tickets that we have never been allowed to in the past to do.
You're talking about John Slaughter.
Yes,
Yes, not John Snyder.
right,
Okay. Now, as I recall, that was one of the issues in this case in Lewis County as well, that this dog.
This dog had been adopted,
Had been
yes.
adopted, the adoptors.
Gave the
that
dog to
Gave the
somebody
dog
else.
away without knowledge of your
Right.
shelter. And that didn't.
The new adopters, I guess, him
But the
and,
county was not going after
right.
the people for not living up to their agreement.
Right. The agreement goes, it's 30 days you have to get it done, and then you have another 30 days to get the proof.
Right.
So the proof had just got turned in. I mean, November is when we pulled those records anyway, which John has his set at the shelter. I haven't seen him, forgive him. And John Snyder, or John Slaughter, sorry, 2 S's. When he come on, I explained to him, I was like, what all have you been told about what you do? And we talked, and he's like, okay. And I said, well, you have this too. And I said, we'll let you get settled into your job, and then we will sit down, we will take all of these, and I'll explain to you how we do them. So that, he has been working on that.
Well, I know that's an issue that was raised.
Right. And I believe they should be taken.
With that, but that's a matter that rests with Lewis County,
Right.
not Upshur County.
But, I mean, but we can, do we have your permission for John Slaughter to ticket people if they do not comply?
Is that the policy?
Is it
That's the policy. And state
Comply
law.
with the policy.
Policy.
Okay.
Now, is this a situation where they have to pay the $50 and they forfeit the $50?
They forfeit the $50 if they don't have it done by a certain amount of time,
Okay,
yes.
and what percentage of them don't actually have proof that they've actually gone through? Is it a high percentage or?
No, I'd say it's about maybe 25%.
Wow.
Because a lot of your dogs are going to rescue, so you don't have them. Because the rescues have their vets and stuff. And when we first start working with the rescue sends back proof that it was done. Then after that, we don't, because they've already took on the responsibility that they will. It's their responsibility as the rescue. We have talked to their references they have gave us from the vets and asked what all they do at their vet when they bring a dog in. And then we don't really have like repeat offenders, because we don't have, usually they don't do it once, they don't usually come back to adopt again. But you have the people that, someone will tell you that it died of car, and they'll call, and they'll be like, yeah, I adopted a puppy and it died of car, or I had a dog and it was hit by a car. Some of them will be nice and they will call you. And I really do believe probably the ones that are calling us and informing us are probably telling the truth. But John still has those meetings, he has pictures, we have pictures of the dogs, he still plans on making door stops. The ones that now, they haven't complied and John's going back on, and it's been forever, they never called us to tell us anything. And some of them have had it done. And they're like, well, when I took the dog to the vet, it was already spayed. Well, we didn't know that because you didn't send us any proof. We still need to know.
But he's gonna determine that first before you take him to court as well.
Oh, yeah,
as much as
yeah,
possible.
yeah, exactly.
Give them an opportunity to explain.
Yeah, some people honestly told me, no, we haven't had it done, we've been going through a divorce, or we forgot. We didn't realize we had to do this, even though it's in the contract and they signed it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, we'll pay some bills, but I will say this has been, in my term on the commission, this has been the most emotional and draining days in terms of issues to discuss in the chamber.